Podcasts are an incredible way to hack your business growth and continue to get free exposure long into the future just by doing a simple interview that is honestly a lot of fun to do. But you may be asking yourself, how can I get on podcasts and actually find podcasts that want to interview you or your expertise? And that's what I want to talk about in this particular video, because there is a great way to do what's called a podcast tour to actually go ahead and promote your services, your coaching, your consulting, your books, your products, whatever it happens to be that you're looking to promote. Podcasts are an incredible way to get additional free exposure to thousands or millions of people. And it's also a lot of fun to do. So for a little bit of background, I actually did a big podcast tour back in 2020. I was actually going to be speaking on stage at a variety of events at that point, but everything got shut down, as you all know. And what I ended up doing is going on a podcast tour. I was doing 2 to 3 podcasts a week for a period of time. And what I ended up getting on is literally dozens and dozens of podcasts, I think approaching around 100 podcasts that I've done. And many of those were big name podcasts. A combination of big name podcasts like Social Media Examiner, Entrepreneur on Fire, ClickFunnels Radio, as well as more industry specific niche podcasts like Video Mastery and other podcasts related to the industry that I'm in. And what I was able to find is that going on all these different podcasts was an incredible way to tap into the audience that all of these different podcasts have and provide real value. Have fun in a conversational format and actually reap all the benefits of being on all of these different podcasts, which doesn't cost you a dime to be on. Now, there's different ways to go out and reach out to podcasts. Of course, you can email them. Most podcasts also have their own way to submit your opportunity to become a guest. So typically either on their website or by emailing a certain email address, you could do this. You could have your virtual assistant or assistant do this, or you can join a platform like matchmaker.fm, which actually automates this process for you as well and connects guests with podcasts. There's a free version. There's also a paid version. It's only $99 a year, and you can go in and actually connect directly with different podcasts. Well, however you actually get on these podcasts, it's important to know that once you're on the podcast, you want to lead with value. Have a conversation. Be yourself. That's honestly cliche advice, but it's the best advice I can give. Don't go in with an agenda. Go in ready to provide value and actually excited to talk about the subjects that you're passionate in. That's honestly what led to my podcasting success. Is I would go on a podcast and I would just be myself. I would be excited to talk about YouTube ads, video marketing, everything that I've been doing, tell my story. And different podcasts have different angles that they like to play. Some are more focused on business. Some are more focused on what you're doing. Some have specific questions about tips and recommendations to other entrepreneurs. And some might be focused on your backstory and your journey to get where you are today. But whatever the podcast, the best way to go into a podcast is to have an understanding first of what the podcast is about. So if you get booked on a podcast, you do want to take a look. Okay, what is this podcast about? Listen to an episode, or at the very least, read about it and get a good sense. Then when you go into the podcast, you now have that connection and just be yourself. Have a conversation. Go back and forth. Be dynamic. Don't go into the podcast saying, I want to hit these bullet points. Go into the podcast ready to have a fluid conversation and see where the podcast takes you. Now, some hosts might be better than others, especially depending on how long the podcast has been around. But in general, what I've found is if this is a podcast that has a certain number of episodes already, a certain number of reviews or exposure, typically you're gonna have a host that knows how to actually make sure the conversation goes with the flow and actually has a good outcome at the end of the podcast. And that's what you want to do. Now, I also recommend setting up a podcast specific page regardless of the business that you have. So if you're offering strategy calls or you're looking to get phone calls for potential phone call sales, what you might want to do is send people to a page like a gift page where you can go in and give people an opportunity to get a few free resources and then maybe book a call with you and your team. Alternatively, if you have a book that you're giving out, maybe there's a page where you have special bonuses for your book that you can direct people, or if it's a product, same thing. Maybe there's a special discount or special bonuses. What I would do whenever I'd go on podcasts is give out a URL. It's easy to understand. Just say @outreach.com/gift. And I would say, okay, you're gonna get 7 different gifts. We have our trainings on YouTube ads, our trainings on omnipresent retargeting. We've got all these different things. And you can also book a call with our team. We'll map out a custom strategy for you. And so what you can see is I have a very simple and easy to spell URL that I can say at the end of a podcast, because they'll always ask you, where do you want to send people? How can they learn more about your business? And then that way you can track all of the stats of how many people are going to this particular page and what they're going to be able to access from that page. Now, the last tip is incredibly important because it can actually multiply the impact of the podcast that you're on. At the end of every podcast, ask the interviewer if they have 2 or 3 recommendations of other podcasts that you'd be a great guest on. And once they tell you what those podcasts are, ask for them to introduce you to at least one of those 3 podcasts. Now, this is gonna allow you to multiply, because now every new podcast you go on gets you 2 to 3 introductions that then gets you more introductions, and now you're creating essentially a tree of podcasts that you can speak on, because again, a lot of these podcasters, they know each other, they've been on different shows, they have different connections, and they wanna be of value and help you. And then of course, after that, always ask them, what can I do for you? And of course, be ready to provide value in return. And so that's what I recommend in terms of using podcasts to growth hack your business success. You can go on a podcast tour, whether you've got a book, products, services, coaching, consulting, whatever it happens to be. If you're looking to promote your business, podcasts are a great way to do it. They're fun, they're free, they get a wide reach of different people, and you get better every single time you do them. So that's what I recommend doing. I'll post some of the links down below with some of my additional recommendations. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.